just let me know if this starts going a little spiral thing, and I'll knock it back off. All right. Well, we're going to talk about Chapter 7, 8, and 9. Chapter 7, we talked a little bit about the mobile device management, right? MDM. How many of y'all read Chapter 7? Good. That means I can ask you questions tonight. Mobile device management framework is policies and features which facilitate mobile device management jointly from a framework called the MDM framework. Okay? You need to be able to understand and be able to classify the three categories of the different types of models. What is a device-centric model, Roger?
That's where the security features revolve around the device itself, the type of phone it goes with.
Okay. The platform of that operating system, maybe, whether it's a Samsung device. Not only whether, if it's a Samsung device, it's going to be Android, but if it's an Apple device, it'll be iOS, right? Could be Motorola. Motorola could be not iOS. It could be an Android device. There are some Motorola phones that Windows is on. So it's going to be device-centric. That's what it means, is depending on that device is how the security is going to be labeled. What about data-centric? Let's go with Corey.
Well, data-centric model focuses on security, data, content of interest without focusing on controlling or securing.
In your own words, please.
In my own words. I don't really have my own words. I'm
Okay.
sick and can't think straight.
Data-centric. It focuses on what type of data. Is it sensitive? Is it public? Depending on the type of data, depends on the security model and the framework that's going to be used to secure that data. Does that make sense? Or to secure that device?
Sort of like a HIPAA
Exactly.
model.
Take, for example, an iPad. Okay, doctors are writing on iPads all the time now. They're going to have a data-centric framework for security, not necessarily a device-centric. They're actually going to be more in the hybrid model where they have both. Think of it as the hybrid model that we're going to talk about now is where you have both data and device-centric security mechanisms and frameworks that are really going to be better for you. Okay. Most mobile phones used by the military are hybrid models. For the simple fact, you have to be secure with the data, you have to be secure with the device in the case the device goes away. Speaking of which, I need a patent, just an idea that just popped into my head. Make the phone disable if it's outside a certain perimeter of a GPS location that you target the phone. Let's say if I'm a commander and I have a phone on there and the GPS goes outside of the Oklahoma City metro, the phone becomes disabled. It can only work within a certain radius, and you can program it if you need to go to another base or whatever. You have a pre-programmed route, then that area will pop up. You know, that'd be kind of cool.
Doesn't sound like it's too far out, because you have the alarms and everything that can be based on GPS location.
Yeah, and why not be able to disable the phone based on your GPS location? So if in fact that Anthony decides to steal my phone and he leaves, what happens? Apple's kind of the same way. If you use too many of the wrong passcodes or design diagrams or whatever, it can lock your phone permanently. Or you can remote into or get into iTunes, can't you, and shut it down from there? I haven't had an Apple in a while.
You can wipe it from there.
You can wipe it from there?
Yeah, if somebody steals your phone, one of the techs at work has an Apple. But if somebody, he's got the new i6, and if somebody steals his phone, you know, because he has that Apple Pay where you can swipe
Right.
your credit card onto it. But he says the whole thing's encrypted, and if somebody were to steal his phone, all he has to do is log into the computer and put in a code, and it'll completely wipe the phone. In fact, make it just a brick. They can't, you know.
And that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
It'd be even more cool if you could make like a spying device, listening device, and look at the camera to see where it is.
Hijack it. Come on. What haven't I taught you this semester? You already
Yeah,
talked
you
about that.
hijack
Why don't you
your
use Nikki
phone.
Spy? Implement Nikki Spy on the phone.
You can actually automatically log into the site she was talking about
can actually play a sound on my wife's cell phone,
Mhm.
put it in lost mode, or even erase the phone
Yeah.
from here, since both of us have got the iPhone and
Yeah.
we're linked together. If she loses her phone, I can take and find it.
Yep.
Same thing with my laptop and.
But that was just a little off topic, but that's kind of what you're talking about here. Using the hybrid mode, you use both types of capabilities together. All right. What is device provisioning, Darren or Josh? You don't know? Okay. Well, it's the process by which the mobile device management framework solutions deploy and enforce policies of restriction on mobile devices. Device provisioning, i.e., how many of y'all have had network administration or messed with a Windows server? It's a GPO. Does that make sense? It's a group policy object. You control it from the management of the function of the phone. You can provision it to certain employees to do certain things. You can block people from having access. That is what device provisioning means. All right? Provision profiles are also usually XML based. What have I taught you in this class about XML? It's broken. That is one of the easiest things to hack is XML. Why? Because XML is usually plain text. It is usually, it could be signed, it could be encrypted. Not usually, but it could be. What's the likelihood you're going to find an XML file that's signed and encrypted? 1 in 100? On page 192, 193, 194, and 195, they kind of show you how provisioning works and how it goes on to XML. Well, speaking of how it works, what is the one thing that you can do? You can always root it, right? You can always do stuff to it. So we're going to talk about a little bit about bypassing the MDM. What would you do to bypass an MDM? Jailbreak the phone. Change the key list. Remember, XML is not necessarily digitally signed. It's not necessarily encrypted. So all you have to do is screw with the XML. Now, don't you wish your grades were all based on an XML file? I see smiles everywhere. All right. I can get through the... What is one way you can make reverse engineering harder for an attacker?
Obfuscation.
Obfuscation. Big word. You might want to know it and know what it really means. Obfuscation basically means you're encrypting it. You are applying some sort of extra step that another layer on the defensive depth spectrum, so between the attacker and your data. Does that make sense? Let's see. What else does it say? All right. You need to know there are two different ways, and Charles just talked a little bit about it on his phone. Two different ways that you can secure your phone permanently. Remote lock and remote wipe. You need to know that information. Okay? There are two widely used features of the MDM. So, does Apple do a good job with their MDM? What would y'all say? Y'all understand the concept of an MDM is really just the management and the policies that affect the security of the system. That's really all MDM is in a nutshell. That's why there are only 10 questions on this chapter. All right? What kind of MDM would y'all use, and why?
Hybrid.
Hybrid?
It's more secure.
Okay.
Going, right?
Do it.
Where it's going, everything's going behind it.
Everything's going to hybrid. When would you want to use just a device centric? Maybe you don't care about the data?
Yeah.
Your personal phone, you know, about the only thing some people can get off of it, they're the older model phones, it's just contact information. And you can get that out of whitepages.com.
Well, like a flip phone.
Yeah, just the older phones that you have to really get three times to get to the letter F. Or whatever that the combination is on there. I'd have to look at my phone. I mean, that's... Huh? ABC are 1, DEF are 2, GHI. So to get to the letter I, you'd have to hit three times. And then, not including the space or the symbols that go along with it, and uppercase or lowercase, and that's device centric. What about data sensitivity or data centric? When would you want to use that?
You send sensitive data, receive it, probably.
Do what?
When sensitive data is sent, received.
Hospitals.
Yeah, you could. Probably the older versions of hospital stuff. I would think more of hospital, military, OEM, that kind of stuff, or those type of employment places would want to use the hybrid model to where they have both the phone and, because I may be able to download that encrypted data, but it's still on my phone. And if someone has the time and really patience, let's say it's the 4-star general at Tinker, you steal his phone, you're going to spend the time to try to get the data off of it. But if it's some airman basic, you can really care less about his phone, right?
Not like some private company that programs or whatever.
And that could just be, yeah. But then again, they may not care about the device that it's on, they just care about the sensitivity of the data. Okay? So you got to really think in terms of what is your company looking to do? What is your company's purpose? The scope of your company. Look at the mission statement, the vision statement of your company, and say, do these pieces of hardware really meet the minimum criteria for security? What level? Those that have been in my SSAC class, you understand what I'm talking about by looking at the aspects of each device, whether it be hardware, looking at the software that it takes. You got to look at how the network infrastructure is done, how you rate your physical environments. Okay, once you understand the scope of it, you can better determine which model is going to be the best management model for you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Chapter 8. What is the threat modeling? Someone give me an idea of threat modeling. In your own words, not with the book words. Security risks? How?
Checking vulnerabilities and applications.
You logically go through the constructs of it. How many of y'all have had ISM with Prof. Dewey? Or ISA, ESM, any of those courses? Okay. How many of y'all remember her tabletop exercise?
Doing that now.
That is a threat model. You got to think of all the possible scenarios of threats that can occur to your locality, your business, your data, your infrastructure, your hardware, your software. All aspects of that business will be interrupted by some sort of disaster, some sort of occurrence. In Oklahoma, what's our biggest disaster that we're going to have? Well, there's two right now. A tornado or an earthquake, right? An earthquake, like we had that 4.8, what was it, yesterday? Yeah, I mean, that was up in Kansas. But if you were up in Perry, Oklahoma, would that have made more sense to have that ready to go because you were a lot closer? You were 120 miles closer to the earthquake than you are here in Oklahoma City, right? So could that be one thing that you might want to think about? Absolutely, because earthquakes can cause racks to fall. Well, if you're in your infrastructure and your hard drives get rattled, it's going to kill that read-write head on there. Now you've lost all your data. Unless you want to spend $50,000, $60,000 per drive to get them redone. And you're still out 6 months. It's easier just to start from scratch. And hopefully your backups are good. Okay? Well, there's several different types of places like Microsoft Threat Modeling, Trike, Octave, Cigital, Pasta, all those, and I'm not talking about Olive Garden when I say pasta, even though it makes me hungry. Pasta and all these other ones, they kind of give you the methodologies and the pieces of the framework or the pieces of the puzzle to put together to understand how to do a threat model. All right? Those might be good if you're thinking about, in Prof. Dewey's class, if you start looking at the mobile device aspect of that. Now, I'm not trying to give you hints on what she does or what your group is doing for that. I'm just aware of the process. What kind of threats do we have? Script kiddies and hackers. Well, Script Kiddie is a hacker. Or the person that runs a Script Kiddie is a hacker.
Yeah, but they're amateurs.
They're amateurs compared to you.
Well, they're experts compared.
They're experts compared to you. Well, you just say, well, they're just amateurs. It's like, okay, you're implying that you're an expert. Okay. We'll see about that grade now. See, I'll change it to an F and see if you can bump it to an A.
Here you go.
Maybe some overly zealous professors that want to let you realize that this is so big in your phone.
Oh, gee. Leave your phone and we'll see what happens.
That was-
I guarantee you I won't touch it. I don't want the liability. Any student can touch your phone after I leave the room.
Okay.
Because after I leave the room, there's no class, so you're not officially in session, so you can't sue the school.
I don't bring it with me.
Probably a smart move. What kind of a professional is one that looks into mobile devices?
Looks into how? Into their guts?
The security of it.
Okay.
What is the term that we use for mobile device security experts? It's called AppSec, Application Security. They can inject code into a mobile browser, and if you inject something into a mobile browser, what do you have? Well, you have an injection attack, right? Well, what's the most famous type of browser attack? MeTib, the man in the middle, or man in through the browser. Okay? Now, a man in the browser is really fun. You can get a whole lot of information because people do not care what they put into the internet. That gave me an idea for next semester. I have to look into the legality of it. No, during Raider Days, I'd like to set up a computer and let people do it, and everyone that's in the class look through see what people are entering. I don't think the school will go for it, though.
You could say it's a security test.
Okay. What is a consumer-based or consumer-grade base station? What is it called? Also known. Do what? A femtocell. You need to know that information. Because what is a femtocell? Anyone know? What is a base station?
A mobile hotspot.
How many of you have heard of a wireless pineapple? Congratulations, that's a base station for Wi-Fi hotspots. You've never seen a pineapple, have you?
It's big, it's got antennas on the phone, looks like a router.
About that big.
Oh, the pictures make it seem big.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
about that big. With my hands being the antenna, that's about how big you've got.
no.
The whole idea of a pineapple is the original one was embedded in the bottom of a fake pineapple. And the antennas were the top of the pineapple. So that's where it came with wireless pineapple. Okay. Users is the threat. What is the number one threat to an operating system? Huh? People. Why? What do they do?
They're stupid.
Well,
We forget everything they touch.
do what?
They forget everything they touch.
They forget everything they touch. They have that Random amnesia, right? How many of us have random amnesia? We intentionally forget things that we don't want to know.
It's called sometimers.
Sometimers, yeah. How about anyone that breaks their phone?
The average cell phone user.
Do what?
Isn't that the average cell phone user?
Those that root their phones. Let's see here. What else do we want to cover? There are, when we talked a little bit about the device security just a minute ago, how do you determine what level of device or what level of security you're going to use for data? Is what I meant.
The sensitivity of the data.
How do you class it in a mobile environment?
What's the data used
Personal
for?
information is the most secure.
Well, think about this. It all really goes back and stems onto the location in which that mobile device belongs to. If it belongs to a military installation, you're going to have secret, top secret, confidential, maybe several other types of classifications. Some businesses may have offline access, personal data, sensor-based data, and identity data. They may classify as that, looking more specifically at what the data is rather than how sensitive it is. Does that make sense? So you want to know those four types and what they're about. I really wish I'd highlighted these while I was going through. Securing the mobile development guidance. There are different types of areas in which we need to talk about. Threat modeling we've already talked about. Do you want to use a mobile web or do you want to use a native API? What's the difference? What's the difference between an API and mobile web?
Either on the device or off the device.
Maybe.
It's built inside of the board.
Neither one of them start off on the device.
The native API is built for the device specifically, and
Maybe, but it is built for a device, yes. You have Android and iOS.
the mobile web is basically scaled down version of.
Here's nutshell. Your applications are APIs. Your little screens that have your applications. Mobile web, you have to go through the mobile web browser to get to a location. Like if I'm banking at Tinker Federal Credit Union, they have Home Branch application. That's their native API. But I can also go through my web browser and connect to them through SSL, hopefully, through the web browser and get a smaller version of their full site. That is what we call a mobile web. Does that make sense? It's how you're getting to that information. There are two different ways to get there, but you're still going to get the same information. And I hate it when they have completely different looks and feels. Why? Let's see here. Just trying to think of. Okay. Remember, we talked about a few weeks ago what a web view is and what a JavaScript bridge is, right? Back in chapter 6. An API can allow you to have these as well as a mobile web, right? We talked about that, and I explained to you how it gets through the Java runtime, the JRE, right? The block that was in the center between your device and the database that it's trying to reach. Okay? You need to know why you would want to run an add JavaScript interface tag. Why? Because it truly only loads trusted information into that web view. If you don't have that add Java or JavaScript interface, you're allowing someone else to be able to mitigate or steal your personal information. You can develop a custom JavaScript bridge that would use the should override URL loading. That means you're only going to go to the site that you need to go to, and it prevents anyone from giving you those stinking pop-ups where you go through 6 or 7 websites and they get your attacked cookies on your system, then you get all these malware stuff, right? What is one of the basic things anyone ever told you about computer security? What are the 2 things that you never do? You never leave anything in your logs. You never leave anything on the clipboard. In other words, don't leave anything in RAM. As long as that system is on, I can see everything you've done. You reboot that system, I've lost it all. Why is it important for a forensics? How many of y'all have had forensics? Why is it important to make sure that the machine is in the state it was when you captured the original image? If it's on, you capture the image immediately. Why? Before you power it off. Why is that important?
Because we'll lose a lot of the cache and
Exactly. You'll lose what they call volatile memory. Anything with volatile memory you want to capture first before you image the drive. Because the second you power it off, you'll lose all that. All right? In other words, if you're going to hack someone, what do you want to do? You want to make sure it's all running in RAM, not ROM, and not on your hard drive. All the data is going to go to a flash drive that you can hide somewhere. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to talk to you about Chapter 8. How many times did I talk to you about near-field communication in this class? On page 232, it specifically defines why I say that. Near-field communication capabilities in mobile device require specifically handling when using an application. By default, do not trust data received from an NFC tag, period. Rather, perform an input validation on all data that comes in on an NFC. So I'm going to walk around here and I'm going to bump into his iPad. Okay? Near-field communication kicks on. Data is being transferred. Does he even realize it? Absolutely not. Is he trusting my source? It's not like Bluetooth where you have to accept that connection. NFC automatically does it. So if you block NFC tags from allowing into your system, what have you done? You've made it more secure. All right, let's talk a little bit about Chapter 9. The fun chapter, where we're talking about what?
Payments.
Google Wallet, right? We're talking about application payments. Application payments are pretty high, right? How many people pay from their phone for something in their life already? Whether it's Amazon, whether it's Google Wallet, whether it's PayPal, huh? Apple Pay. Anyone know how those processes work? How many of y'all been through secure e-commerce? Raise your hand if you have. Then, how many of you had it with me? Then you know, well, I should say you may not remember, but I did teach it to you. How merchants get their information. How it's authenticated. It goes through a merchant exchange, right? The exchange is the one that processes your payment and then targets the bank sends them money, they take a part of it and send it on to the person that you're paying. The man in the middle. Always great to be the man in the middle. It's called a tax, right? So what is a mobile version of the exchange? What is it called? Merchant Customer Exchange. All right. All it is a place that businesses like to go to take care of their transactions. In this case, Visa. MasterCard, American Express. Those are all exchanges. All right? They're the ones that liaise between you, your bank, and who you're either buying or selling from. Does that make sense? What is some of the problems with Square? It's not encrypted. It's in clear text.
It is now.
That's not encrypted?
Square. It was not at the time this book was written. They got sued. Oh yeah, they did. Someone's information got leaked. Hey, I don't mind walking by someone that's doing Square and I'm running NFC. Hey, oh, come on, man. Should have been in my way. And I got their credit card information. Do they know that I got their credit card information? No, because they've already probably been there an hour and gone. Because it was storing the information on the application inside the phone unencrypted. All right. What about Google Wallet? How does it differ? Uses virtual cards. Okay. But what is the essential component of the mobile payment platform?
Yes.
The SE. Si, senor. Right? It's a secure element. That's where your cards are based for. Regardless of a form factor, SEs are essentially just the Java card. Alright? And it's designed to make portable access to a variety of different smart cards so they can use it for mobile payments. Does that make sense? What is PPSE? Denny, what's PPSE?
I have no idea.
All right. Kelly, what's PPSE?
Not read that far.
Mark, what's PPSE?
I just read that, but I can't remember what it is.
Proximity payment system.
It's the proximity payment system environment. How many of y'all have ever gone to the gas station and been able to take your credit card out and put it up? PPSE. Well, it's probably because you don't have anything on it. Right? You close those credit cards. So there's nothing on it. So you can just go up there and go click, 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 and try to make it authenticate. All it is, it acts as a registry of the payment applet, so the payment terminals know you are who you say you are. That's really all it amounts to. Okay?
Has there been a problem with that? Because it seemed like it was going to make a big hit, and then all of a sudden it just went away. It seems like.
Have you heard of RFID?
I feel like you probably should have.
RFID is what they were using, an RFID chip on the credit cards to ring up.
Yeah.
I can take your RFID information like that.
There was
That's
a guy or something that was going around with an iPad or something inside of a small backpack. He was just going to a mall, grabbing up anybody who had an RFID card, and can then go make purchases himself.
Speaking of RFIDs, how many of y'all plan on traveling abroad anytime? Within the next 5-10 years?
Been there, done that, I'm done.
You know all the new U.S. passports come with an RFID chip in it, right? Yes, they do. And it's on a certain frequency. However, it has been known by terrorist organizations what this frequency is, and they've developed RFID readers so when your passport comes in contact with it, that garbage can that you just walked by could be a bomb. So, surround it with something. There are new little wallets that you can do that are lead lined. They don't weigh very much, but it protects any outgoing signals from that.
What
But
about the aluminum wall?
It may be aluminum instead of lead, but it's to help protect that information getting out.
I think they're making like a little card insert thing you can insert your cards into. They're making things that you can insert your credit cards into, and then they fit in the credit card slot, so they're protected by that coating.
I haven't heard that, but they may be doing it. I don't know. So if I ask you, and here's the question that you're going to need to know. To communicate with the applets on the SE, or the secure element, instructions are sent by the applet in form of a application protocol data unit. There are two subtypes of protocol data units: command and response. So if I ask you what the three types of PDUs are, what are they? What are the three PDUs? Names.
Application, command and response.
Yes. That is your written in question for Chapter 9.
Say it again.
Application, command, response. Those are the protocol data units. They're on the bottom of page 239, last paragraph. That last sentence is going to be vitally important on Chapter 9 because it's worth 3 points, that question. So each of those answers are worth 1 point. Now, there's a total, with those 3 answers, I think there's only 7 questions on that test, or 6 questions on that test. So they give you like 9 total points. Possible. All right, each question's worth 1 point.
Are we supposed to describe each of those now with that?
No,
Or is it short?
you're just going to say application,
Okay.
command, and response.
Or is this the one you said was the, not the true false?
That's the only one that's the non-true false. API applications gave way to access embedded secure elements, but there's a new evaluation kit we call SEEK, which is Secure Element Evaluation Kit, and it's for Androids only. And it provides a way to connect to those SE form factors. Okay? You need to know that information. You also need to know what an access control enforcer is and what it does. Which means it's in charge of determining the application should have access to the SE and on which side.
Which one's that?
That's on 242 towards the bottom. And then I'm jumping to the end of it. Those are the things that you really need to know out of the secure element environment. Is there any questions? You think you can do good on your quizzes? All right, your quizzes. They're each timed at 60 minutes. Okay, so you have a total of 60 minutes to take any one of the 3. Which each of them being 10 questions or less, you should not have to take 60 minutes for. They all close at exactly 7 o'clock next Thursday night. They'll open at 5:30. So if you come in at 5:30, you may begin your tests. Okay? So you can get those 3 in. The first 5 tests, because I gave you all test 6, the first 5 tests will be open again starting at 5:30. However, I've made them close at midnight so that you can go back and redo it. Does that make sense? Those are open book, open note. That's why I'm allowing the excess time outside of class, because those that are in class are closed book, closed note for 7, 8, and 9. Then once you have that, I've already got it set to where you should be able to look at all your questions for the future if you want to. And then all you have left for this class is your papers. Yes, Austin?
Last day to turn those in is the 5th before you go.
Yep. What whatever that Tuesday night is of Thanksgiving at midnight, or I should say 11:59. If you turn it in after that, whatever I grade on that will be your final grade, and I'll put in the comments final grade. I have a rubric, and all I do is I go down and check it, and I say yes or no. Did you meet this qualification? That qualification is based off of your project assessment that I gave you for that particular paper. Okay, it's the same rubric that you'll get for your Apple that you will get for your Android. So you write your 3-page paper, your minimum of 3-page paper, and if you meet the criteria, you score a lot easier. All right? I would highly suggest you pay attention to the 2 sources, 4 paragraphs for each article area, because that's 15 points per. That in itself can knock you down a 70 for that one paper if you don't meet those. All right. And then they're due by the 6th, right? Or yeah, the 6th. I give you all till the 6th to get those turned in. And if you don't get it turned in, you get a 0. So worst case scenario, if you have 100 going into it, and you get 100 on one, you don't have to turn in the other one, right? You get a 75 in the class. But I don't think anyone's going to have 100 average going into it. Well, maybe a few of you, if you go back and redo the quizzes. And you score hundreds on these 3 quizzes.
3 quizzes, 10 questions each.
7 and 8 are 10 questions apiece. 9, I think, is 8 or 9 questions.
It's all true and false based on what you
All of them are true, false, based on what I said. So if I basically go through it, look at any italicized word that could be like a vocabulary word, and highlight the sentence with it, and get to know it. Because I have changed a couple of them that will to will not. So you need to understand what they do and what they're for. Is there any questions? Gives you a week to prepare for 3 quizzes. Now, I will tell you this, as soon as you're done with the 3 quizzes, if you don't want to take any of your other ones, you can leave next Thursday night. Or I would encourage you to take your quizzes, then leave so that you, because I'm not going to allow any open books in here. So that means if you want to take your other quizzes, you have to leave this room until everyone's gone. Or if you're the last person, then you can obviously do it because no one else, I don't want an open book in here when someone's taking a test. Does that make sense? That means no electronic forms, no nothing. Okay? Cool beans? Alrighty.